Hello and welcome to another TLDR EU video. It feels like it's taken an eternity, but the UK and EU have finally reached a Brexit deal. After years of waiting and weeks of immutable deadlines coming and going, it's here in all its glory. The issue being that it's not exactly come at the best time for anyone. For businesses, ordinary citizens and our team, we all have just a couple of days to readjust and prepare for the new future relationship. So in this video, we're going to take a look at exactly what will change on January 1st from the perspective of Europeans and the European Union. If you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more news from Europe. Also, if you're interested in the UK side of this story, what changes for Brits from January 1st, then we made a video over on the TLDR UK channel which explains that. It's linked down below. For better or for worse, the EU has lost one of its largest and most influential members. And this has a whole variety of impacts, but the most immediate ramifications spark from changes at the border. While freedom of movement remains unchanged for the EU 27, the UK is no longer part of the club. That means that from the new year, the UK is expected to bring into force a new points-based immigration system, explicitly designed to treat EU and non-EU citizens alike. EU, EEA and Swiss citizens will be able to travel to the UK for so-called short trips without needing a visa. Longer stays and employment in the UK will require an application under the new points-based system, requiring a minimum of 70 points, of which 50 are non-negotiable. People wanting to work in the UK will require an offer of a job from a Home Office approved sponsor, that's 20 points. A job at an appropriate skill level, that's another 20 points, and must be able to speak English at the required level for 10 points. The remaining 20 points can be obtained through salary levels, identified job shortages, PhDs, or any combination of the above. When it comes to travel, from the 1st of October 2021, national ID cards will no longer be valid for EU travellers entering the UK, except in very particular circumstances. For instance, those with settled or pre-settled status. On that front, EU citizens currently in the UK may stay in the UK as long as they've applied for and obtained settled status under the EU settlement scheme. Air travellers arriving at London Heathrow or Gatwick from the EU will still be able to use the same e-gate passport checks as British citizens, joining rest of the world passengers solely for customs checks, with further preferential treatment agreements likely to arrive in the coming weeks and months. Moving on to education, the UK is also set to leave the Erasmus programme, invariably meaning that UK-based universities and entities will no longer be able to participate in the scheme. This will potentially cut off EU students from studying, at least temporarily, in UK higher education institutions. EU nationals who do wish to study first and foremost in the UK will ultimately be subject to the same new immigration rules regime we mentioned earlier, and they may also encounter higher international fees. On a more macro level, it wouldn't be an EU video on Brexit without mentioning fishing. While the UK will claim sovereignty over its waters in the new year, it will take some time for that sovereignty to be fully fleshed out. EU boats will continue to be able to access British waters for 5.5 years, and over this period, UK fishing boats will gradually get a greater and greater share of the catch. After battling until literally the last minute, and from widely different figures, an agreement was eventually settled on at a 25% reduction in the EU's catch over a period of 5.5 years, yet another transition period. The first year will see a reduction in the EU's catch by 15%, with 2.5% each and every year after that. After this transition period, there will be annual negotiations where the UK and EU are able to reassign quotas. The UK could, in theory, take back full control of their waters from 2026, but the deal says that if they did, the EU could slap back, imposing harsh tariffs on the UK. So, overnight, on January 1st, 2021, there's going to be little change on the fishing front, and ultimately, that's an argument for another day. If you want to know more about the fishing situation, then there's a link in the description to a full video we've released about it. On the food front, there may end up being some disruption to supply chains, such as those we've seen in Dover due to the closure of the French border. According to the Financial Times, in an overview published by the European Commission, it was suggested that the EU would immediately implement tough new checks on agri-food products with no grace period, potentially leading to perishable goods becoming caught up in border queues, according to the president of the National Farmers Union. The EU will also lose immediate access to professional service providers. From doctors and vets to engineers and architects, professions will not automatically be recognised after the 31st of December, meaning those with UK qualifications may have to jump over some regulatory hurdles in order to get those qualifications recognised going forward. In a similar vein, financial services are also going to be affected. A number of UK registered and regulated banks have already announced plans to close accounts of citizens resident in the European Union or European Economic Area. For instance, Barclays has announced that Brits in Belgium, Estonia, Italy and Slovakia will have their accounts closed if they do not have a UK address. Coutts will close accounts for all Brits living in the EEA, while Nationwide plans to close the accounts of those in Italy and the Netherlands, and is taking legal advice as to other countries. On a more macro level when it comes to finance, the deal doesn't really cover financial service access between the UK and EU markets, in spite of the City of London continuing to manage the vast majority of euro clearing transactions. On the transport front, UK airlines will no longer be permitted to fly from one point in the EU to another. For instance, an EasyJet flight from Stockholm to Brussels would no longer be covered by existing arrangements. In turn, airlines on both sides have established foreign subsidiaries to conform with the new requirements, meaning that while EasyJet UK would be unable to fly that route, EasyJet Europe, registered in Vienna, would. And finally, let's discuss family. While the UK was a member of the European Union, it was ultimately subject to the 4 freedoms: the freedom of movement of goods, capital, persons and services. This freedom of movement of persons allowed EU family members of British citizens to move with them to the UK automatically and without question. Again, from the 1st of January 2021, a whole new immigration regime is coming into force. All EU citizens, barring Irish citizens, will be subject to UK immigration rules, removing the automatic right for EU family members to join British citizens in the UK. So ultimately, on the EU side, the changes are relatively limited, with Brits more affected by the immediate Brexit transition. But that's not to say that these changes will be the be-all and end-all. And it ultimately must be remembered that this is one of the only trade deals in history where both sides have started with complete regulatory alignment and wish to actually diverge, become further apart, the opposite of basically every other trade deal in history. In fact, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has already made explicit comments stating that the UK will diverge over the coming months and years, a divergence that will invariably impact the EU and the people living and working in it, even in ways that we can't predict just yet. If you're interested how things are set to change on January 1st on the UK side of the channel, then you can check out the video we made on the TLDR UK channel, it's linked down below. But what do you think? Are you prepared for the changes in the UK-EU relationship? And will you be before the end of the year? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.